Hi friends, it's Sarah from rufflesandrainboots.com, and today I'm making an angel gnome and I'm providing 2 free wing templates. If you would like to make this cutie with me, just boop, stick around. As always, please like this video so I know you're here crafting with me. In the background, you're going to hear fall noises, dogs barking, my husband raking leaves. So I use the Scandinavian Sweetest pattern, but you can use any gnome pattern. Down below, you can get 1 or 2 free wing templates. There's this style and then the one that points down as well. Also down below, go ahead and sign up for the Ruffles and Rain Boots newsletter. I share coupons and freebies, even exclusives I don't share anywhere else. So per the pattern, however you're making it, we're going to assemble all of our pieces for sewing. So for those of you who are new to sewing, you can either cut out the mittens like this, or you can do the sandwich method, which is like this. So all you're going to do is take your mitten material, this is a cream fleece, put it right sides together and pin it in place so it doesn't move. You're going to cut out the pattern. I'm using the tie top from the pattern, and then you're going to trace the outside edge, that's your cut line. You're then going to cut the pattern and trace the inside line, that's your stitch line. All right, so per the pattern, just go ahead and sew up that body and hat. I also did the arms. But you see here where the seam is, you're going to start there when you're attaching the base. Put the base right side facing in so that when we turn it out, it all matches. And then go ahead and just pin that in place right at the very top, which I call the top is the seam to me. So then pick up the entire piece off of the table and you'll see that 2 pieces will fall down to a point. So you just want to identify where that point is and then join those 2 pieces up. And then that's your second pin. After you get that pinned in place, you can squish the sideways view. So hang on, you can see it here. So now you can do this all the way around. You're basically just splitting the difference between all of the pins. It will sit flat. Let me show you. See that gaping hole up at the top left? That's where I'm starting, but everywhere around there is pinned, okay? So we're going to take this and start and reverse our stitches to start. But I wanted to show you, and the entire time I am sewing this, I am moving the body piece out of the way as I go around the circle, right? And that way it keeps it all flat, in place, nothing's moving around, bunching up. When you remove it, you just pull everything apart, make sure your stitches are everywhere. All right, these for the new people, if you want, so that I made it a dotted line so you could see, but you're gonna line up your needle, not your presser foot, on that line and sew. So be sure to pick up your presser foot, leaving your needle in place around all these curves. That is the easiest way I can tell you that you are gonna get something without any bunching or like hard pokey edges. Once you reverse your stitches, you're going to remove this from your sewing machine and cut all the way around the outside line and just above where you started your stitches. You're going to cut off all of your little strings and then you're just going to flip it right side out. I like to use a pen or dowel to help me, and then roll that seam in between your fingers so that it sits flat. And then look, now you have a little tie top mitten. So for those of you using the other mittens in the Scandinavian Sweetest pattern, it's the exact same. You can do both of these methods. Speaking of both of the methods, this is how I do it, which is just taking it and using a narrow in seam to sew up my mitten. And then here it is turned out, rub the seam in between my fingers again, and then now I have 2 mittens. So I can make them clap. All right, so if you haven't already, go ahead and finish sewing up all the pieces to the pattern like this arm. Once you have everything sewn, go ahead and snip off all your pieces and turn all of them all right sides out using a pencil or dowel to help you poke the tips out of both the hat and the body. Speaking of the body, you're going to rub that base in between your fingers to help that seam sit flat, which will help you later. Go ahead and turn the arms right side out and put the seam down the center of one side. Doesn't matter. That's just going to be whatever side we put near the body. And then you're going to put the arm all the way down into this mitten. And that way we don't have to stuff either of the arm or the mitten because they're so tiny. You can add a wire if you want, but it's not necessary. So now all the pieces you should have are the completed body, the hat, and 2 arms, okay? Those are just the wing templates over there. So choose your wing template and then trace it onto a thin cardboard or a very heavy card stock and then cut those out. All right, so I'm going to use my do the body first. I'm using 1.5 cups of poly pellets, and then I'm going to tamp it on the table to make sure they're all settled. Get some wire, some floral wire, and I'm going to bend down one edge, poke it all the way down along the back seam, and then I'm going to poke out the bottom a little bit so I can grab it and turn it 90 degrees. Just like that. And then I'm going to cut it just above the hat for the height, and then roll down that top and place it all the way into the tip of the body so that we have a bendable quote hat and body. All right, then next step is just to stuff it full of polyfill. I get asked a lot about how thick or how much to polyfill. If you can squeeze it and the item bounces back to its original shape, that's enough. Once you have that, roll the entire item between your hands to sort of help distribute that polyfill. If you use the wire, be sure to catch it. We are going to either sew or glue up this backing, and you can glue the wire into one of the channels and then glue the entire backing closed, or you can do like me and just hand stitch it. Slip on the hat, making sure the 2 points are really well aligned, and then pin down the back. So we're going to be moving everything, and we want the back to stay stationary. Go ahead and lay it down and then scrunch up the front so that we know where to put our nose, and that's a personal preference. All right, so now I'm going to take my template over to my minky fur fabric. This is minky plush fur, lots of different names for it. But you're just going to trace that directly onto the fabric and use an X-Acto knife or razor blade to cut the fabric backing only. All right, and then we're just going to repeat that a second time, flip over our cardboard template and trace it and cut that out. Well, once you have that, you're going to lay your plush fur down first, then add a little bit of hot glue, and then add just the tip or edge, because this stuff tends to curl up on itself. And when it does that, if you don't like tug it, even though you've only glued one little piece, but if you don't tug it, it's gonna bunch up and you're not gonna have an entire edge covered. Ask me how I know. I make the mistakes so you don't have to, right? But we're just going to finish that entire edge, and then you're going to line up the fabric after putting hot glue on that cardboard. Do not line up the fur. All right, now we can just go ahead and take off any of that transfer or cut off anything like that where I got hot glue on it. So before I put down my arms, I like to make sure I know what they're gonna be holding. So I just made a little gold plastic bell and a little sprig of berry and leaves. To make the arms, we're just going to put the mittens all the way in and then hot glue the mitten to the arm and tie it off. Again, I'm using the tie top mittens, so I do a couple layers of this red embroidery thread, add a little bit of hot glue, and then knot it before cutting off. And then I'll just redo that for the second arm and pin those back in place until we're ready to glue them down. So for the beard material, I am using a husky. I picked this up on Amazon, and you can see my very fancy beard measuring skills. Yep, that's my finger. So just make sure, the only tip I have here is number 1, find the center before you cut your fabric into a V or a U. And then number 2, only cut the fabric backing. You will have no transfer. I'll put a link to an iCard above about how to cut faux fur if you need that. So I'm just going to add some hot glue to the back, lift up my brim of my hat, and then glue that down. I used my scissors to split the fur to its fabric backing. I added a generous portion of hot glue to that fabric, and then I just chose a 3/4 inch wood round. There are no holes. And then I gave it an intense nose boop. Once that is dry, I'm going to faux hem the hat, so I'm just going to add a little tiny bit of hot glue, fold over the hem, and then I'm going to add glue to the nose and press my hat right down in front so I can get a nice good scrunch that stays there forever. So now's the time for me to put on my item. I'm going to just push the fur out of the way so I don't get any glue in it. And then I'm going to have my little guy hold the item, and then I'm going to glue it down. And I know the arms aren't glued down yet, but I like to do it this way just so I can make sure everything's in place. Then I'm going to glue the body to the arm and then the hat to the arm. All right, now I can do the back. So I'm going to flip up this edge and then just glue this all the way down. All right, so now for the wings, you are going to take a pair of scissors, not those wire cutting scissors, but here you go, some sharp scissors, and you're going to cut a channel. This is going to be very close to the fabric backing. You don't want to cut the fabric backing, but we need it to glue to the fabric, not the fur. So you're going to add a very, 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 very generous portion of hot glue, and then you're going to lift the wings up and place them in place when your gnome is standing. Then you can lay down the gnome and let it set before moving on. So I have a new manicure. It's a new day because nothing in my craft room was gold except for that bell. So I had to go and I got these Dollar Tree lights, which happen to be the same exact garland as this Hobby Lobby pack. Just saying. I got gold wire, gold sprigs, and this very thin gold ribbon that I used for the halo. I just made a little circle, tied a teeny tiny bow, and glued it on. And guess what? That's it. What do you think of this? Let me know in the comments below if you would make this. I love him. You can get both the patterns and sign up for the newsletter below. As always, thank you for being here, and stay tuned for a Dollar Tree angel coming soon.